Okay, so for the recording, Aśvinī Nakṣatra. Ashwa, what does it mean in Sanskrit? Ashwa. What do you think it means? Horse. And Ash, translated, is also to reach, to penetrate, to gain, to master, and to enjoy. So Aśvin means a horse tamer, and Aśvinī means the horse woman, or possessing horses, or being born from a female horse. So the horse is pretty important in this nakshatra because it's also the yoni, is a male horse. So Aśvinī runs from the first degrees of Aries until 13 degrees of Aries, 13.20 degrees. And it is considered to be the calculation of the middle point of the nakshatra mandala based on the Chitra Paksha system that we use, in which is the opposition of Spika in the nakshatra of Chitran. That's where right now we use this to be the middle point of the start of the nakshatra mandala. There are various mythological legends that base Kritika or Ardra, Maga, Shravana, and Dhanishta even to be the middle point, but in these days we use Chitra Paksha, and the most commonly is then Lahiri Ephemeris, but I rather use the Yukteswar or BV Raman for the Dasha periods. So, Aśvinī is located right below the constellation of Andromeda, and there are three stars there. It's Alpha Arites, Beta Arites, and Gamma Arites, or they're also known as Hamal, Sheraton, and Meshadi. And these 3 points, if you have conjunctions on these stars of Aries, that can give a very strong energy. So Hamal is the head of the ram, and if you have, like, for example, a Mars there or a Rahu, then it makes a person very headstrong, stubborn, sometimes aggressive, but they also have leadership qualities, and they can be great protectors also. So then Sheraton is a little bit lower, is the horn of the ram, and is considered the throat region. This one is a bit more violent, outspoken, can give injuries and destruction by war. If you have like a malefic Mars conjunct Sheraton, you have to pay attention. And then you have Meshadi, he's a little bit in a lower degree violent but still impulsive. So these degrees you have to watch out for. The horse, what does it represent? What does a horse represent?
Movement.
Movement, yes, indeed, very good. Yes, what else?
Speed and freedom.
Speed, freedom, yes, exactly. Also status, vitality. It's similar to the sun. You see the sun god, he rides on 7 horses.
Is the sun the planetary ruler?
No, Ketu. It's Ketu. Ketu is the planetary ruler. Yeah. But the sun is exalted at 10 degrees of Aries there. So at the higher degrees of this nakshatra, the sun becomes fully exalted. So the sun is really related to this nakshatra also. Because it's similar to what a horse stands for. The ancient kings were driving on magnificent horses representing royalty, status, power, horsepower, for example, mobility, and so on. Now, in the Itihasas, or the great stories of ancient India, like the Ramayana or the Mahabharata, there was descriptions of an Ashwamedha sacrifice. So the horse sacrifice, Ashwa meaning horse, and then Meda meaning supreme wisdom. And what was this sacrifice for? You had pretty much the horse was released when the sun was traveling in Aśvinī Nakṣatra for 365 days, and that was the emperor's horse. And it was released through the empire to see if the kings were still loyal to the emperor. So whoever would challenge or capture the horse, that would mean he would capture or challenge the emperor. And then the emperor would go to war with such king. And then at the end of the 365 days, when the sun would come back in Aries or in Aśvinī Nakṣatra, then this horse would be sacrificed if nobody would have captured it. And that's how the emperor would see if his empire was still loyal to his will. Very interesting. But this sacrifice is just more than just political games, but it was also meant for physical, intellectual, environmental, and spiritual transformations of society. Not just the Ashwamedha sacrifice, but there was many yagyas throughout these ancient histories. So with these yagyas, they pretty much want to bring back the health and consciousness and the vitality of the common people and of society. So the emperor, he is considered the head, and he organizes all the body parts, and the sun then becomes exalted in 10 degrees of Aśvinī. Then what you see is if you have malefics in Aśvinī, it can give head injuries. And also feet, because the body parts are the knees and the feet. So it can give injuries to the feet, knees, legs, and the head. So, any questions so far? That was kind of the introduction.
No, that's clear.
Good, okay. So then in Nakshatra theory, it's not really the planet who rules the Nakshatra, but it is the deity. So we have to give more importance to the deity which rules the nakshatra. And you see that in, for example, in Mrigashira and Pusha, you see that Jupiter, even though Saturn is the planetary ruler, Jupiter performs extremely well in Pusha, and Moon is the deity. Soma becomes the deity of Mrigashira, and it's ruled by the by the planet Mars. So we have to look at the deity to see how well a planet will perform in a nakshatra position. So in Aśvini's case, the deity are the Aśvini Kumaras, Dashra and Masatya. And Dashra means bringing help or service, and Masatya, truthfulness. So this nakshatra is pretty service related, and also related to truthfulness, kindness, and auspicious qualities. So these Aśvini Kumaras, they were considered the celestial medicine men or physicians, or the physicians of the gods. So they could heal people. So they were experts at the usage of herbs and healing therapies, and they had the power to also make old people become young again. And according to the Rig Veda, they were the lords of speed and knowledge. So all of this is related to Aśvinī Nakṣatra. And what you then see with people who have prominent planets like First Lord, Atmakaraka, Moon, or Sun, in Aśvinī, you see people in first aid, emergency, medical personnel, surgeons, because you have to be very quick at one place to perform an act of aid, for example. Also, this nakshatra can give the solution to people who become very sick or ill diseased in Satabhishak. And Satabhishak is known to give disease, and many times the solution can be found in Aśvinī. Or I would say in Pusha also, because Pusha is also related to healing and administering healing remedies. When moon transits, Pusha is very favorable.
So you mean that if we once get a problem related to Satabisha, then it can be healed in Aśvinī, or
The solution can be found, the remedy.
Or in Pusha.
Or I would say in Pusha also, yeah, for sure. Because Satabhishak is very well known to give heavy problems regarding health. Yeah, but especially in Aśvinī and I would say Pusha also solutions can be found. Especially when moon transits these nakshatras also, you could meditate on finding a solution if it's really difficult to heal a person. Yeah. Now it is a Ketu, the planetary ruler is Ketu, and we know that nakshatras with planetary ruler Ketu can give significant karmas, especially if the moon is positioned in such a nakshatra, and if the moon is malefic, it can give very strong karmas to a person. So this is also the case with Aśvinī. And what you then see is that people in life, they complete their karmas very fast. Because the quality of this nakshatra is also light and swift. The deities were known for speed and knowledge. So what you see is like race drivers who have then a sudden accident, skydivers. Fast travel and transportation is related to this nakshatra. So if you have malefics there, you have to watch out. So the dosha then is vata, and the negative side, this nakshatra can make a person nervous, short attention span, and can give lots of stress and anxiety. It's good for initiating things. These people have great ideas, but they intend, if the malefic energy takes the overhand, they intend to not being able to complete what they start. That's a little bit the negative side of this. The strength, I would say, they are very, when they initiate new ideas, they go like headstrong for it. They are fearless. They are very energetic, youthful. They can be very mathematical, scientific. They can be very psychological balanced in good cases. They have strong leadership. They're self-sufficient, adventurous, charming, and they love travel, of course. And then the weakness, like we just discussed, is the lack of patience or the inability to complete what they start. They desire quick results. They can be very stubborn. And then especially around these degrees of Hamal and Sheraton, they can be aggressive and arrogant, or even hyperactive, and you will see that they change jobs a lot, also these people. Now, then you see over here, if you have, for example, Mars. If you would have Mars in the first house, together with, I would say Jupiter, even the Aries ascendant, you have to watch out a little bit, because that becomes and if Venus is there also, because then Venus becomes also the seventh lord and the second lord, and these are maraka houses or death-inflicting houses. But when the 8th and the 12th house are involved, or the lords of these houses, especially with Venus, what you can see is sexual scandals or issues with sexuality, for example. With Saturn, it can give to the person the constant karmic reactions of delays, disappointment, and dissatisfaction. With a malefic Saturn, I would say, and a lack of mental peace. So if you have Saturn in this position, it will slow you down. You will want to be hasty, fast. You want to initiate ideas, but Saturn just restricts you if it's in a very malefic position there. If you have the fourth lord, what would the fourth lord mean? If you have a fourth lord in Aśvinī, or Aśvinī is in the fourth house?
You can stay at home, or something about home, or your mother.
You are very active at home, but what you see is also, because the fourth house also represents your small vehicles. So you have motorcycles, cars, and then you see these people like driving very fast.
Okay.
Yeah. 10th house is also related to the legs, and then you see these people over the street, they walk very fast. If you have a prominent position as in the 10th house or as the 10th lord, you see these people walking very fast. If you have then on the other side a beneficial Mars, these people can be very youthful. And I had such a case because I did a chart for somebody, and I think in the fourth house, Moon was in the fourth house in Aśvinī Nakṣatra. And this girl, her mother, even though she was of older age, this girl told me that her mother looks extremely young. And also fourth house, and the moon represents mother. So she had a position there. So I think, or it was Mars or moon was in Aśvinī Nakṣatra there. Can give you youthful appearance, light body practice, pranayam, yoga teachers, Reiki teachers, immortality seekers. And what you also see is that horses, they have these manes, and the caretakers comb these manes. And what you see is that people with prominent Aśvinī have a very good hairstyle, or they do different things with their hair a lot. And then to conclude here, you had these famous Pandava twins. Twins are also related to this nakshatra, obviously, because the Aśvinī Kumaras, they were twins, and you had the Pandava twins. They were born from the Aśvinī Kumaras. Nakul and Sahadev, born from Madri, which in combination with the Aśvinī Kumaras. And Nakul, he was very famous for being extremely handsome. I think he was famous for being the most handsome person in the whole Kuru dynasty there. He was an expert horse rider and trainer. So what you see also people working with animals, especially horses. And Sahadev, he was a very expert mathematician and astrologer. And so you see also lots of astrologers with Aśvinī Nakṣatra. Actually, Sahadev, he knew the outcome through astrology. He knew completely the outcome of the great Mahabharata war, but he had to promise to Lord Krishna to not reveal anything beforehand. Yeah. And then some famous personalities, of course, is Bruce Lee. He has an ascendant in Aśvinī Nakṣatra, with a Venus-Mars opposition there in the 7th house, and he was very swift, very fast. He was youthful. He had a good hairstyle. So yeah, Bruce Lee is a very famous example. And then on the negative side, I would take the example of Hitler. Yeah, Hitler, his sun in the seventh house in Aśvinī, in combination with a few other planets. But his son, yeah, he ignored good counsel because he was very impatient. He wanted to expand his empire as fast as possible, and he started making illogical decisions. And he wanted to just be very independent, doing things his own way, and eventually it got to him. Yeah. So that's the bad side then of Aśvinī. Yeah. And they're also very aggressive towards humanity and towards the Jews. So that's it for this class. Is there any last questions?
Yeah. What about Rahu in Aśvinī?
Rahu in Aśvinī. I would say, that's gonna be very depending in which house. So you could say, but that's gonna be fire. You put Rahu in Aries, and it is about to transit into Aśvinī from Kritika into Bharani and then Aśvinī. So I think next year or in 2 years we will have this transit. Depending which house, but yeah, if you put it in malefic houses, yeah, there's an excess of fire. And then also depending on the position of Mars, because Rahu and Ketu, what they intend to do is they absorb the energy of the house ruler. So if you have a malefic Mars there, yeah, it's going to give you the headstrong, aggressive leader. But if Mars is well positioned, I would say that Rahu with Mars would give an addition to this practice of Reiki, like this mystical, because Rahu represents the illusion, the things that you do not see, but he's going to give an access to that. But it could give you also, how would you say, like immortality seeker gurus, Reiki gurus, who actually just, deceive you, because Rahu is also deception. And so you have to analyze the chart of that person in which kind of direction it will go, but there could be lots of deception there, just like Hitler. The masses of people were following Hitler. He brought the revolution against at that time the current monetary system and the inflation that was going on in Germany, and he stood up. The people were following him because he gave a solution, but in the end it was lots of deception. Yeah. So we have to analyze. It can go both ways.